Welcome into Northside Territory, Foul Territory Network's Cubs podcast. I'm Sahadev Sharma with my partner Patrick Mooney. We are your Cubs beat writers over at The Athletic. Patrick, it is trade season. The Cubs made a move. It's not their move. It's not going to be the big move. I think they traded for David Peterson. It was out of necessity. It's a move that they had to make. But I think it should be an indication of what this team sees. They are in the playoff hunt. If the playoffs started today, they would be in. Uh, they are we're recording on Thursday morning. If they're currently tied for the second wild card spot. Is the division a long shot right now? Yeah, they're 7 games back as we record. That's going to be tough to make up. Obviously, a big weekend against the Brewers, but uh, they are competitive, and maybe it's not the World Series odds shooting those up and getting all the the finishing touches of a team, but this team has a shot, so they're going to be adding, and this was the first, if a small ad, it's the first one that we probably expect of a few.
Yeah, the front office has to do their part, and I think we've known Jed Hoyer long enough to know that if his team has a shot, he's going to do stuff. Now, maybe it's not always the degree to which fans hope for, but this is someone who, a couple of years ago had Cody Bellinger, maybe the best hitter on the trade market. They get hot. Not only do they hold on to him, but they go out and trade for maybe the best hitter who moved during that cycle, Jamer Candelario. And so looking at the rest of the National League, I get it if you're underwhelmed by this Cubs team or sort of frustrated by the ups and downs, or you thought they would be better. I think the Cubs thought they would be better. Injuries are a factor. They can't be the ultimate excuse here. Like, I get all that, but just look at their competition. Like, who scares you? Like, who's gonna run away in this wild card race? Obviously, the Brewers are kind of in the Cubs' head, and we'll see what happens this weekend up in Milwaukee. The Dodgers are the Dodgers. The Braves have bounced back in a big way. The Phillies, don't resemble the team that got swept out of Wrigley Field, but like after that, the Marlins and Nationals sort of like ahead of schedule in their rebuilds. The Central bunched up. The Cardinals weren't really trying to win this year. The Pirates are always trying with limited resources to take the next step. They haven't yet. Reds, 5 games under 500 at the moment. The Padres will probably do something crazy at the deadline because that's what AJ Preller does. But the Diamondbacks still, hovering slightly over 500. So, you're looking at, Giants, Rockies, Mets, as kind of your likely sellers, teams that could match up with the Cubs on some deals. And obviously the Cubs and Mets have already lined up for at least one obvious trade. Like, they had to do something. You need capable pitchers, warm bodies to throw out there.
Absolutely, and I think Peterson could be a solid pitcher for this team.
Yeah,
We talked
yeah,
about it last episode, but he puts the ball on the ground. You have an elite defense behind him. There are 3 really good teams in the NL record wise. I think
yeah.
Cubs fans would have hoped that the Cubs would be in that trio. Right now, it's the Brewers, Braves, and Dodgers, or that the Cubs would be up there with them. And it certainly looked like they were going to be a month ago. But that doesn't mean that they should be sellers. This is Cubs fans should be heartened slightly, at least, by the series that they just watched against the Mets. That is a team
Yeah.
that is in disarray. That is a team who has a lot of questions, that have a lot of questions facing them. They have spent a lot of money. Their system hasn't developed, I think, the way they had hoped. I think they had a lot of hype with some pitchers coming into the season. McLean looks good. He's a really good pitcher. Some of the other youngsters haven't really popped as hoped. That doesn't mean that they won't. sometimes pitching takes a little while. We just saw it with Ben Brown, right?
Yeah.
It can take a little while to figure things out, but that's a team that where the fans should be booing them, and not saying you can't boo the Cubs if they stink and they're playing poorly and you're frustrated. Go boo them if you want. My point is like that's a team that, yeah, like talking about them as contenders or buyers would be silly. Right now, they have a lot of work to change that narrative. The Cubs don't have a lot of work to change the narrative. They have a lot of work to do because they're banged up and there are major concerns with the pitching staff and the bullpen, but they're not out of it. They're in this race, and I think it's easy to fall into the trap of seeing what you like, taking what you just saw, and that's the full reality. But Dansby Swanson stunk for a month, and now he's the hottest hitter we've ever seen. It feels like these you just don't know how baseball is going to turn. Whether it's injuries that pop up or hot streaks that pop up. Right now, the way I feel when I watch Alex Bregman, I'm like, I don't know when this guy's going to hit, but like I just said with Dansby Swanson, it can turn. We don't know what hit it's going to be, what line drive he hits that makes him feel more confident at the plate. But baseball's weird like that, and this offense is built to really, produce at a high level. They are statistically one of the best offenses in baseball. They take a ton of walks. They're starting to hit for more power. It's a type of offense that could carry them for a stretch of play. And I think that's what they need. And then they will continue to buy as we get closer to the deadline.
Jed Hoyer said it when the Cubs were struggling, like pitching is going to be our focus at the deadline, even though he said the trade deadline's the furthest thing from his mind at that moment. But his point was that the backbone of this team is its position players, that, it's the best players on offense have to be their best players, period. And they do have a lot more optionality on the hitter side. Like, I think his general point was like the offense put him in that spot for that 10-game losing streak. Like, everyone just went cold at once, almost everyone. But the longer range concern was the pitching staff, and that was like maybe 5 pitching injuries ago. I don't know, maybe so. What the point is being is, like, I think if you're a Cubs official, you're a Cubs fan, I think you'd be okay if, like, Moises Ballesteros gets called up this weekend and then gets, like, 300 at-bats in the major leagues. I think you'd be willing to, like, see what that is. I don't think you're comfortable giving Jordan Wicks 15 starts the rest of the year. And that even within that position player group, you have very versatile athletic players who can play multiple positions. If Alex Bregman... Like, if these injuries happen on the position player side, the Cubs could, it wouldn't be comfortable. It wouldn't be ideal, but you could play Matt Shaw at third base. He's already being moved around. We saw Nico spell Dansby for a bit of a reset here recently. Like, there just isn't that on the pitching side, particularly when you're talking about, all these depth starters who are now like front of the rotation starters. And you see all these names on the injured list.
Yeah, let's take a quick break and talk about one of those guys that the Cubs had hoped would be back by now, and we'll see if he's back at all this season.
Hey, SeatGeek is MLB's official ticket marketplace, and in addition to finding every single game on the MLB calendar, there are big events coming up very soon.
There's an all-star game. There's a home run derby. And if you think you're perfect and you can pick the right seat at the home run derby to get the most home run balls, you can get the little green dot, and that might be your lucky seat. Don't go red dot, though, because you might not get any balls. But go green dot and get as many home run balls as you think you can catch.
Yep. You click the seat. You check out what your view is. Each ticket's rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. And that's what AJ's talking about. Green good, red bad, with those dots. And the code for you, Territory10, for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any MLB tickets with promo code Territory10. Make sure you click the link in the description of this episode. That'll help you download the app and get the code automatically added to your account so that you can use it later. Thank you to SeatGeek.
Okay, Patrick. Justin Steele, we've talked about this quite a bit. Who knows when he's coming back? But Jed Hoyer went on the radio on Tuesday, I believe it was. Went on the Score. Our friends at the Score talked to him, and he uh, basically said, it's a long shot for Steele to help this team as a starter, for him to get lengthened out and really help this team as a starter. He could give them some innings possibly out of the bullpen, but the timeline just doesn't, it's not realistic for him to do that. I think we've kind of been, if we haven't flat out said that, I think we've been kind of hinting at that. It didn't make sense. The timeline just didn't make a lot of sense. But Hoyer's come out and said it plainly now. I think he said some things about, like, let's hope for a healthy 2027 season, things like that. But we're supposed to talk to him on Thursday. We're recording on a Thursday right now, so maybe when this comes out, fans will have more reaction from Hoyer and see if he regrets saying that on the radio or anything like that. But I think he's just stating the facts and not trying to, like, put a spin on what's realistic here.
Yeah, it was still just odd timing of, like, Steele restarts his throwing program and Jed sort of sounded a little, I don't know, annoyed by the topic, or it just seems like he's been very much like, take it slow, we can't overpromise, like, let's maintain or temper expectations. And Steele obviously wishes he could have been pitching weeks ago. Like, he was shooting for late May, early June, had the setback with the flexor strain. And you could see how, enthusiastic he is. Like, this happened sort of happened in spring training when he saw Dr. Meister and was like, oh, I'm cleared now. And there was some confusion because he was so excited to share that news on social media, and he talked to us subsequent to that of, like, the idea is we're going to be pitching in the biggest games of the year, and this was reassuring. And the Cubs were just kind of like, Cubs officials were like, well, nothing's really changed. It was, like, good to hear. It was positive reinforcement, but this doesn't really change the timeline. And I think some of this is natural. Like, I think that tension is, like, the player feels a certain way, and obviously the guys in khakis and polo shirts have to look at it a different way. If you're Craig Counsell in the dugout, you're kind of balancing both of those viewpoints all the time. And so I'd asked Steele a version of this question during the last homestand, and he said, I'm building up to be a starter, and he thinks there's time. We know how Counsell likes using his outgetters, like, he can get creative with that. And Steele also reemphasized that his goal is to be pitching well and feeling strong for the biggest games of the year. And I think that's still in play. I don't think there was some sort of, like, setback that made Jed say it. I think, we've known him a long time. It feels like if he finds a certain topic or question somewhat repetitive, sometimes he will just be a little more candid and, maybe a little more frustrated at just, like, and again, it's all these injuries piling up too. You know what I mean? It's just like, if Steele has a setback, but everyone's healthy and things are going well, maybe he's, I don't know, maybe his messaging's a little bit different. Like, Jed's very composed. He's been doing this a long time. He's very savvy with the media. To his credit, he is very available as an executive. It's not like that in certain sports or certain organizations within baseball. Like, it is much appreciated. I think he benefits from how available he is and how he's willing to explain the organization's point of view. But yeah, every once in a while he says something you're like, oh, really? Like, that seemed, pretty pointed.
Right. I think it's also important to note that as much as I don't think players are lying to us, you have to take what a player says about their injury with a grain of salt. they want to be more positive, and they should be. Like the part of like rehab is like there's a mental grind. I talked to Steele briefly on Tuesday, I think, or no, it was Monday because we were in the clubhouse Monday before the game got rained out, and he was just happy to be back with the guys and not like siloed off in Arizona rehabbing. It's can be depressing, like frankly. It's like a hard mental grind. So they have to look at it in a positive manner. So if we just take their word for it, we're going to get the positive spin. You have to be really careful listening to players, because players will say, I'm fine, I'm good. And then x-rays will come back and it's like you're actually out for 3 months. And that's not to say that what you said is absolutely right. There was no setback there. Like he's throwing. He threw again. I saw him throw again Wednesday. So he threw Monday. He threw Wednesday. He's out there. He's trying to build back up. We'll see where this goes. I still think the math makes it really hard for him to be this 6-inning starter for the team this season, but that doesn't mean he's not going to try and get to that and prove the doubters wrong. So yeah, I think you're right. Like sometimes Jed like hears this stuff and it's like, that's not really like exactly, that's a little bit too positive, or I'm not sure if that's going to happen, and he feels the need to kind of correct the narrative.
Well, it was certainly revealing, just tying it back to the idea of the trade deadline here, of like the Cubs aren't looking at it like, oh, we have an all-star pitcher in reserve who's going to be healthy, like fully healthy and operational August 5th. Like that's not how they're viewing it. I know sometimes executives like to say that, like that's kind of the trade deadline cliche of, well, once so-and-so gets healthy, that'll be like a trade deadline acquisition. And maybe that's what Steele becomes. I think the Cubs could deploy him in some big moments, and he could pitch in some really enormous innings and situations for them. But I think they're going to be careful. I tend to doubt the Cubs, say, trading for a Cy Young Award winner who's about to be a free agent. Like that just doesn't seem like kind of in their DNA. That's not the team that we're seeing on the field right now. That's certainly not what the math says in terms of their odds to win the division and secure that first round bye that Jed has trumpeted as a very important part of their calculus. But, would not be surprised if at some point, in the second half of the season, Steele does reemerge and looks pretty good. I mean, that's certainly what they're hopeful for, but they're not banking on it. It's not like they pass on a trade because, we have Justin Steele coming back by this date. Like, no, it seems like they're just hoping for a pleasant surprise rather than like penciling his name into any sort of major plans for this season.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about potential, I guess, prospects that you could look at. Let's take the temperature of this system, essentially. I don't know if they're going to trade every single one of these guys we talk about. In fact, I think they're going to cling to some of them, but let's touch on that. Take a quick break first.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, the MLB season is in full swing, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to call your shot with daily dingers. Joining the action is easy. Just make your free pick on who's hitting a home run in their game, and if you're right, you'll get a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. It's just another reason why FanDuel is the home of home runs. So are you ready to play your game? Head over to FanDuel.com/podcast to get started. That's FanDuel.com/podcast to opt in for daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. No purchase necessary. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
Okay, so Patrick, to kind of like reveal some stuff that's going on with my writing. I had planned to answer some mailbag questions. Cubs pitchers keep getting injured, and I don't have time to fully answer these questions. One question I have seen kind of repeatedly was why is this farm system so bad? Why are they unable to develop any talent? If you want to focus on the pitching, I think that's fair. That they have some issues with player development and drafting with pitchers, and I think they've started to address it. We've talked a lot about the changes, but they're making some changes with player development. They're making some changes with the draft. We'll see how quickly it can impact the system, but they are addressing it. I disagree that the system's like terrible or that they have no talent, and I actually think they're doing a pretty good job with the hitting talent. I mean, they've traded guys, obviously. Cam Smith, who's the other big bad? Zaire Hope. And those guys they got really good players for them. They also traded some pitchers. Ty Johnson is with the Rays. I think he's doing pretty solid in their system. He was part of the Isaac Paredes trade that ended up getting them Kyle Tucker. They traded DJ Hers, who's gotten hurt a lot for the Nationals. I think that was Jamer Candelario. Yeah. Jackson Ferris was part of the Michael Busch trade. There's some other pitchers that so it's not as dreadful as the system as some people actually make it out to be. And I think the rankings have them in the 20 to 25 range. I think the Cubs would believe they're more mid-tier, 13 to 16 range. And I can see that argument. Before I get to some of the bats, I think we can update people on Jackson Wiggins. Wiggins pitched, I'm going to get the days wrong, but he pitched in the Complex League for a start, then made a South Bend start, I believe over the last weekend, maybe Sunday. And I was told that his next start will be with AAA. We'll see if that's still the plan. Sometimes these things change due to weather, due to travel plans, due to hey, let's just keep him with this team and we want to see something else before we move him up. Who knows? But right now, I believe the next start would be AAA. I don't think he's next call big leagues. I think he needs to build up some innings. And I don't want to say it's been a good thing that his elbow was barking, but also it limited his innings because he wasn't going to be able to pitch 160 or whatever innings this season after whatever he threw last year. So, we'll see if he's an option. I'd be surprised if he's a trade option, but maybe you try and maximize a guy. And if there's you said they're not going to trade for a rental Cy Young winner. I guess that would be Skubal. I agree with that. But could they it's really hard to pull off these deals like we saw last year. They just couldn't pull it off. But a guy with a year and a half left that's really good, maybe. I think that would be much more interesting for them and something that they'd pursue. It's really hard to pull those off. Because it costs a lot more. Teams ask for sky high prospects. And then the other thing is in the end, those teams just don't really want to trade those guys. Every team's well, we can compete next year too. So that it's hard to pull that off.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the system is probably better than they're getting credit for, but I also look at the system and be just trade a bunch of guys. I just feel I don't know if it screams a lot of long-term certainty there. I like the idea of, hey, this guy's going well. He sort of popped, you need those reinforcements. This season has not gone as planned, but it's far from over. And I do think you have to treat every season as sacred. When you have a chance to win, to bring playoff baseball to Wrigley Field, you have to go do that. I think some of the players that are at AAA Iowa now on the hitting side, maybe the Cubs have held on to them a little too long, but they're probably at a point where they're going to have to move them. It's not like there's a ton of opportunity waiting for them at Wrigley Field. I think you hold on to likely Matt Shaw, Pedro Ramirez, Moises Ballesteros, Maybe I'm missing something up, but otherwise, I think you got to be pretty open-minded there. And this is something I'm sure we'll be asking Cubs people about. It's interesting. You got another draft coming up here, so you can kind of reload the system and maybe develop some more trade chips. Like, it's not ideal, and obviously sometimes you'll get burned by these deals, but like that's what they're there for too. And Cole Mathis, maybe something clicks and he's an all-star 5 years from now. He puts together a good first half, but maybe he doesn't amount to much. And I think you just sometimes your hand is forced, and that's clearly the Cubs are dealing with exceptional, extraordinary circumstances here. You had to go out and get someone from the Mets and then keep adding.
Yeah, part of the system. It's not just Matt Shaw helping the major league team. It's Cole Mathis helping the major league team by being a trade chip. So there are two ways to evaluate the system. Like, is your system good enough to make these trades? Whether it's being a couple extra pieces to get Isaac Paredes and then Kyle Tucker and Edward Cabrera, whatever it is, or is it good enough that you have someone like Matt Shaw, who is it kind of like an extra infielder and depth for your team, but now it has kind of hit his way into regular playing time and proven that this guy's can quickly learn different positions and become average to above average in certain spots. So I think they deserve credit for some of those guys. The three guys that you named, Pedro Ramirez, Baez, I understand he went in a slump, but he's a quality prospect, and I think he's going to hit in the big leagues. A couple other names. Owen Ayers has really broken out this year. Catchers take a little longer to develop. He became a full-time catcher a little later, has battled injuries. He's healthy now, crushing. I think they are very high on him. And then Jefferson Rojas, that's someone I would look at if they're going to make a huge trade, like a really big trade. They have a lot of infielders. They have their infielders locked up. And then you just mentioned Pedro Ramirez and Matt Shaw. Where's Jefferson Rojas going to play? Kevin Alcantara, look, the base running mistakes probably, kind of got him sent down, and he doesn't have a spot on the major league roster. Since being sent down, he's just destroying the ball. He is this is at the time of year when he does destroy the ball too. It's like pretty typical Kevin Alcantara to just have a monster June and July. I wouldn't be shocked if he's included if they swing a big deal. Hartshorn's a guy that is shooting up prospect rankings. Josiah Hartshorn, 6th rounder. He is someone I'm not sure if they would move unless they're getting some superstar pitcher, and that's under contract beyond this season. I'd be surprised if they're moving Hartshorn. He's a top 50 prospect with the arrow pointed firmly up. I think he may be one of the better prospects the Cubs have had in a while. And then there's just, other guys that are solid, and that's what you need to
Kepley. Trade a guy like that,
Kane Kepley, quality draft pick, great defender, contact, can find the gap every once in a while. Yeah. That's a guy that you can look at and say that's a good draft pick, and that's a possibly a trade piece. And there are probably names where we're overlooking, especially guys at the ACL or Dominican League. Those guys, I have talked to some people that are we're hopeful that some of these guys pop. And I have some names. I need to look it up again, but there are definitely a couple other names that they're happy about, that they're happy have popped. Not as much on the pitching side. I'd say the pitching side is mostly some relievers that have popped. The starters, it's Brooks Capel and hoping that Jackson Wiggins, obviously first round pick from last year, Ethan Conrad, he has not played yet. The latest I was told was he should be getting a live BP this week. If that goes well, maybe Arizona Complex League games this weekend or next week. I'll try and get an update over the weekend, see where he's at. But that's the latest with him. If he I understand people want to write him off already, but like this happens. If he's done, he's done. If he's not, if he can't be healthy, he can't be healthy. But this is not like Chase DeLauder with the Guardians. He barely played in the minors and then finally got healthy, and now he's a key piece for the Guardians. It can take a little while. Just get him healthy. That's the main thing. And then if he's talented and he performs, there's another piece in your system. This is not a dreadful system. They need to be better, especially with the pitching. But they can make trades with this group, and they can help the major league team with this group. I think it's better than I expected it to be. I wasn't that high on the group coming into the season, and it's a little bit better than I expected it to be.
Yeah, I mean, thinking out loud here, we're definitely going to have to put together a story like this on The Athletic, because I feel like sometimes the prospect hype goes into overdrive, but at the trade deadline, you kind of need to know who's in play, who's in demand, who's untouchable. And I think this is the beginning of a good idea for that. I think we're slightly less than 6 weeks out.
Yeah, absolutely. Good call. We can write a little bit about this and give the fans some more prospect, the prospect huggers, the prospect peeps. All right. All right. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. This is Northside Territory. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and subscribe to The Athletic, where Patrick and I are on top of all things Cubs. We appreciate you listening and watching. Take care.